All right, settle in, because the year is 1492, and what you're about to hear might just shatter everything you thought you knew. This isn't just history. This is the year 1492, the secret plan to reset the world. Imagine one year, a single pivotal year that slammed into our reality like a cosmic hammer, shattering the very foundations of what was. A year so packed with monumental events, it stretches belief. The year 1492. Every schoolbook tells us it's the year Columbus sailed the ocean blue to discover America. But what if that simple rhyme is a carefully constructed screen, hiding a deeper, darker truth? What if 1492 wasn't about discovery at all, but about concealment? A calculated, orchestrated effort to rewrite history, erase knowledge, and fundamentally reset the course of human civilization. Right now, we aren't just going through history. We're plunging into the shadows it casts. We're peeling back the layers of carefully crafted narratives to expose a hidden agenda. An agenda so audacious, so far-reaching, it reshaped the very world we inhabit. Not by accident, but by design. Our journey begins in Granada, Spain, January 2nd, 1492. The last Moorish stronghold in Al-Andalus falls to the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella. On the surface, a triumphant moment for Christendom. But beneath the celebrations, something far more sinister was unfolding. Granada wasn't just a city. It was a beacon of knowledge. Its libraries, vast repositories of centuries of Islamic, Jewish, and even forgotten ancient texts, dwarfed anything else in Europe. Astronomical charts that predicted the stars, advanced medical treatises, profound philosophical works, historical accounts that dared to challenge prevailing European narratives, all meticulously collected, preserved, and studied. And then, the fires began. Cardinal Francisco Jiménez de Cisneros, consumed by fervent religious zeal, ordered the systematic destruction of countless manuscripts. Not just religious texts, but anything deemed non-Christian. Picture the burning of Alexandria, but here, in the heart of Europe. What was lost in those consuming flames? What truths, what irreplaceable knowledge was deliberately eradicated? Was this simply religious fury? Or was it a cold, calculated act of intellectual cleansing? Wiping out inconvenient truths to clear the slate for a brand new narrative. Hot on the heels of Granada's fall, another chilling decree was issued. March 31st, 1492. The Alhambra Decree. Ferdinand and Isabella commanded all Jews in their kingdoms to convert to Catholicism or face immediate expulsion. Hundreds of thousands, a vibrant intellectual and economic backbone of Spain, were forced to abandon their homes, their livelihoods, their very identities. Why such an extreme measure? Just months after unifying Spain, was it purely religious persecution? Or was there another motive? The Jewish communities of Spain possessed immense historical knowledge, deep global networks, and a unique perspective on the world. They were scholars, traders, chroniclers. They held a different memory of history, one that perhaps sharply diverged from the narrative now being meticulously forged by the conquering powers. By expelling them, were they simply persecuting a people? Or were they silencing witnesses? Erasing a collective memory that might directly contradict the emerging official story? The timing is too precise, the actions too coordinated to be mere coincidence. The stage was being set. An old world was being systematically dismantled, its knowledge purged, its independent voices silenced. But what if the stakes were even higher? What if the Spanish conquest of Granada wasn't just about reclaiming territory, but about seizing vital intelligence? For centuries, the Moors were masters of navigation, trade, and global networks. Their ships, their maps, their knowledge of distant lands far surpassed much of Christian Europe. Whispers persist that Moorish mariners had already established contact with lands across the Atlantic long before Columbus. Accounts from Arab geographers and historians hint at voyages to Al-Ard al-Khadra, the Greenland, far to the west. If true, this means the New World wasn't unknown at all, but a vibrant, established trading region, perhaps already integrated into a global network that Christian Europe was desperate to control. The fall of Granada, then, takes on a terrifying new dimension. Was it a race against time? A desperate scramble by Ferdinand and Isabella to gain access to Moorish navigational secrets, their charts, and their knowledge of these lucrative Western trade routes? The urgency of Columbus's voyage, just months after Granada's fall and the expulsion of the Jews, suggests a desperate need to move fast. They weren't just seeking new lands. They were rushing to conquer existing connections, to claim what others already knew and traded with before rival powers could. This wasn't discovery. It was a strategic takeover. To solidify this strategic takeover and erase the inconvenient truth of pre-existing global connections, a new narrative was essential. This is where Christopher Columbus steps onto the world stage. On August 3, 1492, he sets sail from Palos de la Frontera, supposedly into the great unknown. Mainstream history portrays Columbus as a visionary, a brave explorer risking everything. Yet, despite the popular belief in a flat, geocentric Earth, Columbus sailed with an almost uncanny certainty. He carried maps. Legends speak of ancient charts, perhaps obtained from Moorish libraries before their destruction or from mysterious Templar sources. Maps that depicted lands far to the west, lands that simply shouldn't have been known in his time. This wasn't a blind leap of faith. It was a precise, calculated journey guided by information that, according to the official narrative, did not exist. His journey wasn't discovery. It was rediscovery. For centuries, the prevailing understanding among the common people was that the Earth was a flat, unmoving plane at the center of the universe. This idea, despite what some learned scholars might have known, held immense sway. But why, in the very era of global exploration, did the notion of a flat Earth suddenly become a central point of public debate, only to be dramatically debunked by Columbus's voyage? This narrative, that Columbus bravely sailed to prove a round Earth against prevailing flat Earth dogma, is a persistent myth. It's a convenient story designed to elevate Columbus and the era of discovery. But what if it was more than just a myth? What if the flat Earth narrative was deliberately propagated, a straw man argument, meticulously set up to be spectacularly overturned by the emerging New World powers? This grand deception served a critical purpose: to misdirect the public, to obscure any prior knowledge of global geography, and to control the narrative of exploration. Consider this. In 1492, as Columbus set sail, Martin Behem completed the Erdapfel, or Earth Apple, in Nuremberg, Germany, the oldest surviving terrestrial globe. This globe, a physical representation of a spherical Earth, was remarkable for what it didn't show: the Americas. Despite Columbus's impending discovery, Behem's globe depicted a vast, uninterrupted ocean between Europe and Asia. This wasn't just an oversight. The New World powers were actively pushing the globe Earth concept, not just as a geographical fact, but as a weapon. By dramatically proving the spherical Earth, and with it, the potential for global circumnavigation, the agenda shifted. It opened the floodgates for new trade routes, new colonial ventures, and a completely revised understanding of global power dynamics. The spherical Earth, as embodied by the Earth Apple and other new cartographical tools, became not just a geographical fact, but a tool in the New World Order, legitimizing a global reach previously unimagined. They needed a world that could be circumnavigated, mapped, and ultimately controlled. This shift in understanding was crucial to hide any prior global connections, particularly those of the Moors or other non-Christian entities, and to establish a new Eurocentric dominion over the planet. The very symbol of our planet, the globe, emerged as an incredibly powerful tool in the aftermath of 1492. It wasn't just a navigational aid. It became a weapon in the war for human consciousness itself. Map projections, like the Mercator, distort the true size of land masses, often inflating the size of European nations while dramatically diminishing the scale of continents like Africa and South America. This isn't just an innocent cartographical choice. It's a subtle, yet potent form of psychological conditioning. By presenting the world in a certain way, by emphasizing specific regions and downplaying others, the globe became an instrument of power. It reinforced a Eurocentric worldview, justified colonialism, and subtly, yet powerfully, redrew not just physical borders, but the very consciousness of humanity. We were taught to see the world through a specific lens, a lens meticulously crafted in the wake of 1492 to serve a new global agenda. The globe wasn't just a representation, it was a program. The arrival of Europeans in the Americas triggered what historians call the Columbian Exchange. It's often presented as a neutral, albeit impactful, exchange of goods, plants, animals, and ideas. But what if it was something far more profound? The very DNA of a reset. Crops like potatoes and corn traveled to Europe, revolutionizing diets and populations. Horses and cattle arrived in the Americas, transforming landscapes and indigenous cultures. But alongside these visible exchanges came something far more devastating: disease. Smallpox, measles, influenza. European diseases, to which indigenous populations had no immunity, swept through the Americas with catastrophic speed. Estimates suggest that up to 90% of the indigenous population perished within a century of European arrival. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was an extinction-level event for entire civilizations. Was this simply an unforeseen consequence, or a horrifyingly effective, if unwitting, biological weapon that cleared the slate, paving the way for a new European-centric world order? The Columbian Exchange wasn't just a transfer of goods. It was a fundamental alteration of the planet's biological and human landscape. A grand, perhaps even unwitting genetic reset for entire continents, erasing old ways and clearing the ground for the new. The Knights Templar. Their very name conjures images of mystery, immense power, and vast hidden wealth. Officially disbanded in the early 14th century, their story often abruptly ends there. But what if the Templars didn't simply disappear? What if they went deep underground, preserving their knowledge, their vast networks, and their incredible resources? Historians have long noted the uncanny similarities between the Templar cross and the cross emblazoned on the sails of Columbus's ships. Coincidence, or a deliberate visual signature? The Templars were masters of navigation, builders of sophisticated ships, and rumored possessors of ancient maps and advanced knowledge. Many believe that Columbus himself had deep connections to these clandestine networks, perhaps even being a Templar initiate himself. Could the Templars have been the hidden hand, the shadowy financiers and intelligence gatherers behind Columbus's seemingly impossible voyage? Were they preserving ancient knowledge, protecting profound secrets, and facilitating a re-establishment of global power structures long after their official demise? The Templar shadow behind the sails hints at a continuity of knowledge and power that defies the official timeline, reaching across centuries to orchestrate the momentous events of 1492. The myth of Atlantis, a technologically advanced civilization lost beneath the waves, a tantalizing whisper of a forgotten past. But what if Atlantis wasn't merely a myth, but a precise blueprint, a haunting memory of an earlier, highly developed global civilization that suffered a catastrophic end? Many ancient cultures, from the Egyptians to the Maya, share striking similarities in their mythologies, their monumental architecture, and their astonishing astronomical knowledge. Coincidence? Or a shared memory of a common origin? What if the discovery of the Americas wasn't a discovery at all, but a recovery, a re-engagement with remnants of a previous global order, perhaps even the direct descendants of Atlantean survivors? The advanced knowledge seemingly possessed by cultures like the Maya and Inca, their sophisticated calendars, their monumental architecture, hints at a deeper, more profound connection to a lost pre-Diluvian world. Could Columbus's voyage and the subsequent exploitation of the Americas have been an Atlantis protocol in disguise? A deliberate mission, perhaps by those who held this secret knowledge, to not just colonize new lands, but to re-establish control over ancient sites, forgotten technologies, or even the genetic remnants of a forgotten civilization. The true prize of 1492 wasn't gold. It was the recovery of a lost inheritance. Imagine a global empire, technologically advanced, architecturally magnificent, yet almost completely erased from our history books. An empire known as Tartaria. According to alternative historians, Tartaria was a vast, advanced civilization that spanned continents, from Siberia to North America, characterized by monumental, elaborate architecture, free energy technology, and a distinct lack of the squalor we associate with medieval Europe. Yet, by the 19th century, this alleged empire seems to have utterly vanished. Its magnificent buildings, often attributed to later European powers, were simply explained away as the result of a mud flood or other sudden cataclysmic events. What if 1492 played a crucial role in the dismantling and subsequent obliteration of Tartaria? If a global reset was truly underway, a pre-existing, advanced global civilization would be an incredibly inconvenient truth. It would fundamentally contradict the narrative of progress and discovery central to the New World Order. Was the burning of libraries, the expulsion of witnesses, the remapping of the world, all part of a larger operation to not just establish a new global order, but to systematically forget a previous one? To rewrite history so thoroughly that an entire empire, an entire way of life, simply ceased to exist in our collective memory. Tartaria, the empire that had to be forgotten for the 1492 reset to truly take hold. We've explored the profound layers of the 1492 reset, from the burning of ancient knowledge to the deliberate shaping of our global perception. But what if 1492 wasn't a singular event? What if it was merely the commencement of an ongoing operation? The same chilling patterns we observed in 1492 the control of information, the systematic erasure of inconvenient histories, the manipulation of geographical narratives, the relentless consolidation of power and wealth are still strikingly evident today. From economic resets disguised as global crises to the relentless push for dominant narratives that suppress alternative viewpoints, the echoes of 1492 resonate powerfully through the centuries. The powerful forces that orchestrated the events of 1492 didn't simply vanish into thin air. They evolved, adapted, and continued their work from behind the scenes, shaping our world in ways we are only just beginning to comprehend. The New World Order isn't some far-off future threat. It's a centuries-old project, initiated, or at least significantly advanced, by the profound events of that pivotal year. 1492 never ended. It merely transformed. We've journeyed through the hidden currents of history, glimpsing a reality far more complex and conspiratorial than the one presented in our textbooks. The events of 1492, viewed through this lens, ceased to be isolated incidents and revealed themselves as interconnected pieces of a grand, strategic puzzle. The truth, as they say, is often buried right out in the open, disguised as coincidence, presented as progress, and hidden in plain sight. The year 1492 was not just the end of an era. It was the beginning of an elaborate, centuries-long operation to redefine humanity's past, present, and future. The question remains: if a secret plan to reset the world was set in motion over 500 years ago, what does that mean for us today? And how much of our reality is still being shaped by the shadowy architects of that original, audacious reset?